This free program is paid for by the listener members of KPFK. If you're not already a member, consider joining with us and keep free speech alive.
And are not performed with the intent to express hostility to persons of any nation, creed, gender, race, or ethnicity, or on the basis of their identity, sexual preference, or pre-operative condition. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Pocho Hour of Power! Let's do this.
Hey, little homie, you playing the congas. You know what time it is this is? Do I know what time it is? Oops, it's time for the Pocho Hour of Power, home. Hold on here. I'm glad I didn't miss it. So...
Good evening, my fellow citizens. Good evening, my fellow citizens. Good evening, my fellow citizens. Good evening, my fellow citizens.
Hey, you guys aren't on, man.
Oh yeah.
It's the Pocho Hour of Power.
It's on now.
Hola, Los Angeles. How's everybody doing?
Oh, you're in for it, Los Angeles. You're in for it now.
You did it. I've got my chanclas out. You're in trouble, L.A.
Oh, man.
We got a very big show today. We have live in studio Chino XL and Immortal Technique, legendary hip-hop artists.
I wear my chinos in double XL.
Yeah.
This is the Chino XL.
Oh, the Chino XL.
Yeah.
And Immortal Technique.
I brought those dope, Holmes.
Immortal Technique.
Your technique's mortal, Zool.
We also have author Billy Upski Wimsat on his new book, Please Don't Bomb the Suburbs. I think
why not?
It's his follow-up to Bomb the Suburbs. It is.
That's fun.
And then also there's a show this Saturday, that's tomorrow, at the Breath of Fire Theater in the OC, which doesn't stand for Only Caucasians anymore. Although I was there last night. This is Lalo. I was there at the Fullerton Public Library with Gustavo Arellano, a former KPFK host, and doing a show out there, and it was pretty cool. Big crowd came out, actually, and ate some bomb-ass Mexican food, as they call it down there.
Wow. Well, I know this. I ain't seen Patrick this excited about someone being on the show since he heard Pee Wee Herman was going back on tour.
Hey,
thank God. Hey, man, I just got to say, masturbation is not a crime.
All right. Well, that went south fast.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Just brilliant.
I love setting Patrick up.
So keep on doing it, Jeff. Keep on doing it.
That was
weak.
weak.
Immortal Technique is one of my my all-time favorite freestyle hip-hop artists and amazing rapper from Harlem, originally from Peru. So we're really honored. I don't know what other radio show he's been on the West Coast, so I'm really honored to have him here on the Pocho Hour of Power.
You know, maybe the late, great show that was
the Huggy Boy show?
No. KPFK's Huggy Boy. ¿Cómo se llama?
Oh, yeah, Sancho?
No.
Remember him, the Sancho show.
I don't think he was on the Sancho show.
I don't know, man.
Sancho didn't had a problem with
rap,
with darker people,
Darker rappers, huh?
Yeah, the dark chocolate rappers. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But what was the Friday night hip hop show? I'm blanking out. That used to be here, and we were just talking about it. And what was it called? Divine Forces Radio. God, thank you.
Wow, that was good. How did that happen?
Divine Forces Radio.
Our disembodied sound.
Divine Forces Radio.
D'Angelo.
Oh,
yeah. So we are honored to have Immortal Technique. It's a rare get.
Oh, dude, we got security outside. We got all kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, Chino XL's doing his own security.
Helicopters flying over the station.
That was more security last time Hillary Clinton was on the show.
Oh, that's right. Remember when she?
Oh, that's right. That's when Patrick insulted her. I remember that.
She turned around and left.
So tell us, hey, Patrick, there's something going on with the founding member of Ozomatli, isn't
Yeah, one of the founding members of Ozomatli, Jose Espinosa, also known as Crunchy, has a benefit going on. And we have Walter on the phone from Kava and her band. Walter, the illustrious pianist, welcome to the Pocho Hour Power.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for answering my call. Called me.
For once, Walter, what's going on for? First of all, what's going on with Crunchy, and what's going on for Crunchy?
Well, yeah. If you guys don't know Crunchy, for those of you who don't know him, he's a founding member of Ozomatli, and he's a great musician, saxophone player. Played with Carlos Santana. His son Salvador Santana. He has his own Afro-Cuban group called Umbalaye. But for the last 2 years, he's been battling cancer. And, he's really strong, so he's just continuing to work and everything. And this last 6 months, I would say, was really difficult on the family. So all these musicians decided to do something for him. So there's going to be a great festival this Sunday. And we lovingly call him Crunchy. So the festival is called Crunchy Fest, and it's in Cal Arts in Valencia. That's where
Cal Arts in Valencia. That's a Crunchy Fest. How long is that going to be?
It's like from 12 to 5.
12 to 5, okay. And it's a benefit for his medical bills, I imagine, and just all the expenses that come along with the battle of his magnitude. Does he have insurance?
I'm not sure. I don't. When I talk to him, it's usually about music. I don't go into like, hey, so what do you got in your bank? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure you could use help. So tell us about, is there a cover or is it just donation only? How is it going to work?
It's absolutely free, and you can donate. We're accepting donations, anything you can. I'm sure they have suggestions there, but anything you can give the family, cash, check. You can make the checks payable to Jose and Andrea Espinosa. They'll accept it, and some great bands are going to be there, like Cava. Who else? Carlos Santana's son. He's going to be performing. Salvador Santana and Sono Lux. Crunchy's own band, Umbalaye, is going to be playing all night. We're going to be jamming. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Is Crunchy going to be playing himself?
That's what we're hoping. He's up. He's walking. So we're going to hopefully have him there and maybe sing a couple of songs.
Wow. Well, our listener audience and ourselves, we're all big fans of Ozomatli, and I hope they come out and support this. Is there any other way to send money also?
Their website?
Bank account?
I don't know if they have a PayPal account or anything.
Yeah.
But you can send it to me.
Sure.
There's actually an address on the website. If you just Google Crunchy Fest, it'll all come up.
Okay,
and,
perfect. Crunchy Fest. That's tomorrow at
Sunday,
Cal Arts.
Right? Or, is it Sunday?
Sunday, Cal Arts.
Yeah, it's this Sunday. And people are donating food like Stonefire Grill, Noah's Bagels, Western Bagels, and what's that place called that sells the coffee?
Barrio Bucks.
Oh, yeah. Starbucks. We're donating coffee for everyone, so a lot of
that's
people
cool.
together for this guy. There's a lot of love for him, so it's going to be great.
Well, we wish him the best. Wish you the best too. Thanks for sharing that. That's at Cal Arts.
Crunchy
Sunday.
Fest.
Crunchy Fest,
Correct.
12 to 5
in Valencia.
Go to crunchyfest.com and find out more.
Yeah, or on Facebook. If you're on Facebook and you type in Crunchy Fest, it pops up fast. Boom.
Cool. Walter, you rock. Thank you so much.
All right, I love you guys.
All right, man.
All right.
We love
Thank
you
you.
too.
Wow.
I ain't afraid to say it.
I see that, Patrick. Why you look at me when you said that?
Hey, well, it's time.
It's time.
We've got a very big guest. Hey, can we hear some music from DJ Boxy D?
Can
in
you
the
drop
casa?
something?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got
That's my
Chino,
reflex.
XL, and Immortal Technique coming up next on the Pocho Hour Power.
Look at Alan trying to catch a beat. Alan trying to get down over there.
You wanna come over here? Come over here.
Don't forget the light.
Give them these. Are they 2 or 1? Chino coming in?
You remove move the big label that be backing them. The moissanite ice and fake platinum. And bring it back to rap, I will flatten them. I'm the best across the board like platinum. New York, if you're feeling like me, then you're tired of listening to liars. Wishing it was fire, but none of them is hot, not the flicker of a lighter. I'm about to blow up in their face, Richard Pryor. Get in the
Sing like that. Sing like that.
Oh yes, affirmative. It is the Pocho Hour. What happened? You don't like my
No, it's
silence?
not. Oh yes.
Oh yes.
It's oh yeah.
Come on, people, let's get busy.
Golly, this show happened in a web app.
Welcome to the Pocho Hour Power, and we are joined by a very formidable rapper, artist, and political activist and thinker. I think I've seen you more on YouTube videos at panels than maybe your videos that have like 5 million hits on them on YouTube. It's Immortal Technique. Welcome to the Pocho Hour Power, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you guys having me here.
What were you saying about the egg and cheese right now?
Ah, man, it's just different. It's different on the East Coast than it is on the West Coast. But I love being out here. I got lots of family out here. Inglewood, Southgate, Hawthorne, all around the area, even up by Lancaster, you know what I mean? I got some retarded cousins in Pacoima too, so. It's always lovely to be here. I don't ever feel like I'm visiting when I come here. That's the beautiful thing. But I think the big difference between the East Coast and the West Coast is I think when we deal with so-called Latino issues, and I say so-called because they have a lot to do with indigenous society and not just the advent of a word that tries to encompass so many people. But when I come here, I feel like they're so much more critical, like they're more front and center. I'm not saying that East Coast Latinos don't care about immigration or they don't care about those things, but I think because they are so far removed from the border being, literally 100 miles away from them, that here it's much more drastic. Here you're more likely to see on TV some of these instances where people are dragged out of their home. Not that that isn't happening on the East Coast, but I think that on the East, what you have more is very quiet seizures by ICE and then people being thrown into these prisons that are now conveniently it's come out that they're funded by the same people who are advocating for tougher immigration policy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're advocating for it because they stand directly to benefit from something like that.
That's
right.
I
think that's something I definitely feel more out here. There's more an edge of independence in terms of music. Like more people are used to being independent in terms of hip hop here, so that translated very easily for me. On the East Coast, if you got a merch table, you're selling CDs, people look at you like you're homeless. Here in the West Coast, they're like, "Where's the table?" Like, if you don't have a merch table, you look like a sucker. You look like, man, he didn't bring nothing. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't love his fans. He doesn't want to sell us, merchandise. Whereas the East, it's more like, what are you selling on that table? Like, why are you selling stuff in front of your show? Like, because I'm making money, stupid. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I had a theory about, going to school in the Bay Area and not wanting to live there, even though it was like, progressive paradise, but things were already completed up there, and when you come to a place like LA where things shift and maybe we're less established here than the East Coast, so maybe that's what kind of my work survives on that friction. Does your work survives on friction, obviously, between groups and between the government or between forces against the people. Tell us how your work. How did you come to doing political
music and revolutionary hip hop? Well, originally I just started out as a battle rapper. You might see a lot of those guys on YouTube. There's the battle league now called Grind Time. I did something similar to that, although for me it was a lot more spontaneous, a lot more freestyling. And I think the big difference in between what I did back then was that battling sort of prepared you to be an MC. Like the prize for winning was not just money, but it was also an opportunity to showcase your work. So not only did you have to win the battle one night, but when you came back the next time as the returning champion, people actually expected to hear music from you. Like they wanted you to perform. Is this guy, and you got to see very quickly who was the one-dimensional battle rapper who came and did all this stuff, and then who actually had the substance in his music. You know, I wrote a lot of the first record that I had while I was incarcerated, so I had a lot of material basically right in front of me. I mean, the system was right in front of me.
Well, there's your inspiration.
You know what I mean?
There,
I mean, being in a position where, you know, I'm locked inside the hole, 23-1, and, this Native American trustee slips me like a piece of paper and like, a pencil and says, do your thing, dude. I know you're going to go crazy in there if you don't get to express something. So I think from that level, it was just so much more of an in-your-face interaction. And then, of course, understanding and accepting a lot of the history of my people and where I came from, and a lot of Latin American history, and then looking at the things that even made Latin American revolution possible. I mean, there is no Latin American revolution without the Haitian revolution, without someone there to weaken the Spanish and the French and have them fighting over the spoils so much that the garrisons that Spain leave in Latin America become so depleted, they don't even believe in the viceroyalty anymore. And that's when an empire truly crumbles, when people don't longer believe it, when they're cynical about it,
Well, look, and the Haitians are still paying for it.
When I first heard your raps, I was just flabbergasted because you talk about Latin American history, you talk about issues of conquest, issues of race, issues of the merging of the cultures, and the continuation of the domination of the European throughout Latin America. I mean, some of your rhymes talk about everyone on Univision is blonde, and there's
now they have a black forecast lady. And that's it.
Oh, really?
That's about it. They got a black lady that does the weather now, supposedly. So I don't know.
It's Oprah's cousin.
So that's a step.
And then when I found out you're Peruvian, and I was just blown away. And then tell me a little about how you came to study. Like, I mean, you're obviously very well read on Latin American history and on the alternative Latin American histories, on the kind of history you don't necessarily learn.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it came to me not as an epiphany, but as a slow, gradual process. I mean, I'll admit, not in any way trying to glorify it, but when I was a kid, I was very ignorant. I used to rob people, run around, just didn't care. I didn't see how it personally affected me or where I was, somehow detached from the process. It didn't click. But I think once I started traveling back to South America and I began to understand the difference between what poverty is in the United States and what poverty is out there, the drastic difference. Here, somebody goes hungry or there's a homeless child in the street, someone's going to call, even in the toughest hood, you see a child with no parent, somebody's going to call a cop. The cop's going to come get the child, CPS is going to take him or whatever, but in some way, shape, or form, he's going to sleep under a roof. Or at least in a car, in a cop car or something, whereas in Latin America, a homeless child in the street, you're going to die of exposure. You're going to be kidnapped, sold into slavery, whether it's a guy or a girl. It's really that drastic. People die because they don't have medicine to cure diarrhea. The simple things, things that wouldn't necessarily be life-threatening to us are life-threatening to them. And not because they're ignorant, not because they're in anything, but a people who are forced to obey laws that are unjust, laws that are set up so that they can't cultivate their own crops, so they can't grow food. It's not that they're poor, they're very rich, they just don't have an opportunity to express that. And I think once I started looking at that, and then I started looking at the correlation in between other governments and other societies, especially the Middle East and Africa, I began to see in the same way the same game being played on them. It's not exactly the same, of course, it has to be updated, but it's very similar.
We're talking to the great hip-hop artist Immortal Technique, and here on the Pocho Hour of Power, and he's giving us quite a schooling right here.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Hey, can I say something? I was on a family road trip, like to Palm Springs, and I get a tap on my shoulder. My little nephew Albert, who better be listening right now, because
what's up, Albert? It was good, son. We chilling.
He tapped me on the shoulder. He goes, "Uncle Lalo, check out this song." And he was a little reticent about it because it was not quite a radio friendly song, but it played on. It was Immortal Technique. It was great that my little 14-year-old nephew out in Chino is listening to Immortal Technique, man.
Well,
and you're giving the lessons, man.
The music applies to so many different people based on whatever walk of life you are. You know what I mean? So if you're a corporate lawyer, there's something in there that you've probably seen in terms of the legal system. If you're gang banging in the street, then of course you've seen drugs, but you have a better idea of where they come from than other people. You know what the splits really are. You know how it really goes down in the street. You understand the raw emotion of racial separation when people are incarcerated. You know, in the street, we're in the hood, we're all good, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Once we get behind them walls, I eat with him, you eat with them, and that's how we separate ourselves. And it breaks down to the very rawest of human emotions about how we see ourselves or how we identify as a human race. You know what I mean? And then when you get deeper into it, then you understand political implications. You understand about why Europeans decided to specifically separate black and Latino, or black and so-called Latino people, black and indigenous people, to make their conquest process a lot easier on this hemisphere.
Yeah, this is Jeff Keller. Yeah. I like that you touched on that black and Latino. What do you think in America, that blacks and Latinos, what do you think we have to do to get together now, since they've done so much to separate us?
You know what? I think I'll answer that question in two parts, because it's a very important question. One, it's difficult to ask for black and Latino solidarity when there's no solidarity in between black and black people and Latino people, or indigenous and indigenous people. I mean, there are people locked on a reservation right now who, for all intents and purposes, should have the enemy being the United States government, who stole all their land and kept them there, and yet even they're in gangs, killing one another, you know, addicted to drugs. And at the same time, when you look at those instances and you see people who are specifically taught to be ignorant about the other, I think the first step we can do is look inwards towards ourselves. For black people, I think I'm not going to say it's easier, but I think it's more of a process of understanding what information they're being fed now. It's like, you know what, look on the news, or mostly it's right-wing news or right-wing radio. They're very, very eager and adamant about snatching African-American people or Caribbean immigrants that come here, but people that are black, that identify themselves as black, and taking them and saying, Latino people in this country are stealing your jobs. Latino people in this country are responsible for more gang violence. They threaten you as much as they threaten us. What we need to do is create a voting bloc so that we can separate ourselves from these people. That's hard to do in terms of filtering all of that negative information, all those negative stereotypes that we have in our hearts and our minds about so-called Latino people. Because all those stereotypes are walking around the street, so when you confront one, it's easier to confront the stereotype and be like, oh, that's just because they're like that, than it is to take a person for face value. On the Latino side, I think it's much harder to do, because it requires the confronting of years and years of indoctrination, years of looking at black people and saying, oh, well, they were just, supposed to be less than us in the first place, or because that's the way we were conditioned by Spanish society. You don't want to be Indio. When you go to Latin America, call someone an Indio, that's more like you spitting in their face. Oh, no. I just have a little bit of that blood in me. But the greatest insult is to call somebody black. It's offensive to people. And I'm honestly disgusted by that when I see it, because I'm like, you're not proud of what you are. It's so sad, because when you find like white South American people, you find so-called quote unquote white Latinos, in other words, European individuals who came and migrated and did not choose to mix themselves in with the local indigenous or Africanized population, you'll find that at least they're proud of who they are. But Latino people, unfortunately, sometimes some of the most racist people. You know why? Because they don't even love themselves. You could tell white people love themselves. They change history all the time to make it seem like they did all this shit.
Well, they take the time out to take care of themselves.
But Latino people, it's like, we deny ourselves the obvious factors that exist. You know what I mean? And I think it's not a question of beating down one religion or beating down just picking on European Americans and their contributions to the world. It's not about that, but it's about recognizing the fact that in order to specifically colonize the people, they had to be subsectioned off, divided amongst one another. There could not be camaraderie between African runaway slaves and indigenous people. That is, the ultimate sin. You don't want these individuals getting together. Then they have sayings in Spanish, mejorando la raza, to better the race when you marry a lighter skinned person. Every aspect of our culture is dominated, unfortunately, in terms of the media, and I'll probably get in trouble by saying this, but I don't really care. It's dominated by a lot of very, very right-wing Miami Cubans that control the media. And I know a lot of Cuban people, a lot of them very respectful, very, very dominating, but when you have that specific class that's, they're almost angry at their own people, they're going to be angry at everybody else, too. They're going to be angry at individuals that have come and been supportive of race relations, because unfortunately a lot of Latin American revolution has been tied into racism, and it's been a huge and impossible fight in order to achieve some way to overcome that incredible hump. And I'm not just going to blame the Miami Cubans, because there's all sorts of people in Mexican society, Peruvian society, Venezuelan society especially, but it all breaks down to them wanting to take the most basic difference between people, exploit it to their own political advantages, because that's the only way they know how to make money.
Look at the Republican Party even did it to poorer white people, and made them, think that they should support billionaires. I mean, you could do it on a dime, and it happens all the time. Here in America, we are talking to Immortal Technique, one of the most amazing hip-hop artists, and here on the Pocho Hour of Power. And we've got a few minutes. I've been told that after Immortal leaves, Julian Assange is coming by, the founder of WikiLeaks. Just kidding, missiles and rockets now aimed at KPFK. He's that guy, the WikiLeaks guy, Yeah, he's not really coming by, man, okay? I'm just telling you.
Should have heard what he leaked about Patrick.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Did he make disparaging remarks about our black brothers?
Yes, but I second for Patrick.
Second for Patrick. So,
no, but I think one of the important things is that, you can't fight racial supremacy with another kind of racial supremacy.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think that when you read books like They Came Before Columbus, people like Ivan Van Sertima that point out the African presence in Central America previous to the European conquest, you have to take it with a grain of salt that says, yes, there was a presence, but at the same time, it's not like Africa is single-handedly responsible for, or as if people came here and taught a bunch of ignorant people who were living in the jungle how to build civilization. No, there was a civilization here. There was a very advanced civilization there. They had communication, and people grew, as they normally do during civilizations communicating.
It always shocks me when people think that UFOs came down and taught the Aztecs the pyramids, or the Peruvians, or that we as
they
if
never
we
seem to
couldn't do it ourselves.
They never seem to teach the Vikings anything, though.
No, but I mean, this is the interesting thing is no. But if they did that, and this is the counterpoint that I always have. Look, if they've taught them things, then of course they've taught America things. Of course they've taught white society things. We went from 6,000 years of history to creating pyramids, to the point where maybe 200 years ago we were riding around in buggies. We were bloodletting, putting leeches on people to help them. Yeah. Motherfuckers sniffing cocaine to make sure that that was a healthy thing. They put heroin inside the aspirin. You know what I mean? If they helped anyone, they helped you people. You people are on the moon now. You know what I mean? You're all over the place. You're sending probes to Mars. Somebody had help. It wasn't us. We just moved rocks and we cut them because we loved math and science. Yeah. You know what I mean? We thought they were the keys to the universe. That was God's language. The unbreakable word of God was the mathematics that was put forth that created everything around us. We worshiped the sun. Why? Because it was the provider for life everywhere in the world. And a lot of religions, unfortunately, are still based off of sun worship. They just call it something different.
Yeah, they say that the aliens came for the gold, but I think they came for the cocaine.
Jesus Christ.
They came for the gold, they stayed for the cocaine.
Because they're still flying.
I've just been informed.
Genesis 6?
Speaking of the Predator, we've got Chino XL on the phone. Chino.
Yo, what up, y'all? I just got logged in and just heard something about sun worship and cocaine. I don't think I ever heard that.
I can't hear him. What is it?
Oh, go ahead.
I've never heard those two things mentioned in the same sentence.
Tech,
not for a few thousand years, anyway.
Yeah, that's right. How you doing, man? Welcome again to the Pocho Hour of Power, Chino.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Hey, so have you guys have been touring. Could you tell us more about that? Or have you guys been touring?
I mean, we just did a show on Monday, right? We did a show to benefit a children's hospital in Palestine on UCLA because the Palestinians and those the people involved in the Muslim Student Union have always been incredibly supportive of immigrant rights, and I feel like in order to build bridges, I step out there and we do things in order to continue to show that solidarity between one people and another. And Chino Excel was definitely a big part of that, and I appreciate that. And he can give his own take on how he felt the event went.
Chino?
Basically, Tech is like a brother to me, and a lot of the things that mostly everything that the dude stands for is so 100% in line with what me and my team stand for. Like, we're kind of, cut from the same cloth, and his mission, him getting from A to Z with what his life mission is, even beyond the music, just what his message is very important to me to help be a catalyst for him to get there. And so, he'll give me a text like, yo, lock and load, what the date is, and then we just kind of fall in from there. But when he told me what the thing was for UCLA, which is basically for a children's hospital in Palestine, was where all the money was going to, it was very close to home to me with, my daughter being a cancer survivor who was helped by the Children's Hospital here in Los Angeles. And it was very interesting to see how certain factions tried to drag what was trying to be done and trying to make it a division in the sand, you know what I mean, which it completely wasn't. The truth is, and one of the things that I said on stage, which Tech backed up, is like, how can there be bad aid for children? It doesn't matter where the children are from.
Mm-hmm.
If Israel would have kind of reached out to the kids,
If they were in the same situation and it happened to be Jewish children or Christian children, we didn't care. I mean, there are Christian and Muslim Palestinians. We don't care who the money went to. If it happened to be Israeli children that were living under occupation and they were, receiving the same type of bombardment that Gaza receives, then we would be doing a benefit for them. Unfortunately, there's a very, very different proportional response to any sort of violence in the Middle East, and that's not a proportion that they choose to acknowledge or even want to address. I threw an egg at your car and you dropped, white phosphorus gas that burned skin off of people's bodies onto me. That's a proportional response. If we expect that response from every part of the world, then everyone would attack America with nuclear weapons right now.
Yeah. So did you guys have protesters at the event?
I think it was protesters. It was just people trying to spread disinformation before and after. But I think we had a very, very solidified and hard-working group of people that worked to circumvent that sort of thing. So it wasn't really that big of a problem.
That's right. I mean, you're right.
It was an extremely successful event, down to the woman who runs all of the entertainment for that school came backstage, and she looked a little disgruntled, and she looked at me, and I didn't know how to read her. She's like, "Can I talk to you really quick?" And I said, yeah, sure. She says, "I just want to let you know that in the 15 years that I have run the events for this particular hall, I have never seen a more organized and courteous group." Now, keep in mind, we were there with 50 of our own soldiers.
We did bring a lot of going.
We completely policed it ourselves. They didn't have to. We made sure we kept the crowd in line and everything, because it's real important that an event like that went correctly. And it did.
I could see this like, where are all these people coming from?
Why is everybody behaving so well? Oh, those giant men over there.
Nah, but I mean, the other thing is that, Chino didn't mention it, but it's true. Like, it's not only just about having numbers, but having discipline in numbers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want people there drunk and high. Like, it's not a party. It's a job. It's an event. It's not like a job I hate, but I happen to be one of the very few people in this world that is able to have an employment that they really love. To be able to go to work every day and be like, I really love what I do. That if you're listening right now and that's what you do, then you are one of the 0.001% of people in the world that do that. Unfortunately, a lot of people go to college, they go to school because of their parents' expectations, or because they think, all right, this profession I'm going to make some money in. But it's not really what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's not what your life's dream is. It's not what you envisioned when you were young. It's not even what you envision now.
That's right.
It's just your pit stop in life.
Which is why the service everywhere you go is so bad. No one's doing what they really want to be doing.
I know.
Okay, what do you want again?
Well, we are talking to Immortal Technique and on the phone Chino XL, two just amazing hip hop artists that have, Chino is a return offender here on the Pocho Hour Power, I think we got to wrap it up, but I really want to thank you for coming on. Don't burn yourself with that hot coffee.
It's good. It's
good.
coffee.
I like coffee when it tastes like a cigarette. Yeah, that's good coffee.
Hey, Chino, Patrick is upset you didn't come in this time. He's been practicing for a year. He wanted to battle.
Oh man, well, sorry I didn't get to come there and just mercilessly destroy him. If I don't hurry up and finish this album, then all our spring and tour plans are going to be messed up. So I have to do that.
All right.
Hey, so what do you guys have in the future coming up, and how can people see your stuff other than Googling your 5 million view videos on YouTube?
For me, I have an album coming out called The Middle Passage. I also have a documentary coming out. We had a title, but it's in the process. But it's been about 5-6 years of filming all around the world. Cornell West, KRS-One, Chuck D, Woody Harrelson, basically anybody who I've come across in my career. Big shout out to all them, and Ice-T, of course. People who have offered advice and have presented images of the culture and the culture of resistance, not just hip hop, but a culture of resistance. And I believe the movie goes into my life, but also talks about how I decided to change my life and how anybody can pretty much do the same thing if they're dedicated and disciplined enough to really focus on just that. I'm saying, you know what, this is my path right now where I'm going. This is the trajectory that it's headed. This is where I'm probably going to end up. And saying, no, you know what, I've decided to change that.
Yeah.
And I've decided to make my life into something that's viable because I want to create a future not just for myself but for my family. So that's what the movie's about.
I agree with everything. Positive. Agree with everything you just said, except the fact that anyone can do it. Because you would still.
You're a real motivational speaker. Somebody just drove their car off the fucking highway right now. Like, I'm never gonna do it. Boom.
No, you'd still beat them in a battle, I think.
Patrick, you a fool. You said Chuck D, KRS-One, and then Woody Harrelson.
Ice-T.
No, but how's Woody Harrelson fit in all this?
The same way that Cornell West fits into it. That people who are friends of mine that may not necessarily may not necessarily be hip hop artists, but they know a lot about the culture of resistance. Woody Harrelson's a big activist.
Yeah, he is.
He's got the best mota.
Dr. Cornell West is a very, very learned figure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Who knows a lot about American history, who knows a lot about black culture. And when I had a conversation with him, we were talking about John Henrik Clarke. We were talking about the history of the world and the fact that it's not. When we talk about black history, we're not talking about black history. We're talking about world history.
No, it's world history.
Because that's exactly what we're talking about. We talk about Sumerians. We talk about Mesopotamians. We talk about the first peoples who lived on the earth. They were indigenous of a certain color, of a certain disposition, of a certain nature in terms of building their society to the point where they didn't want to create. Like, if you look at Native American society, it's not built on leeching off of other people. It's built on creating things for yourself and your family. It has a healthy respect for the environment, which unfortunately American capitalism does not. It has no respect for the environment. It treats, the earth like a rental car, when it's
and Americans treat their neighbors like props in their lives.
But I mean, again, I don't think that's because of the nature of one people or the nature of another. Again, that's where one racial supremacy cannot defeat another. I think it's simply because when we look at European society in the Middle Ages, it was structured so that one kingdom was literally built against another one.
Right.
So one dukedom or one county was structured so that it was in a competing area with competing resources and everything shoved together, overpopulated, full of disease, to the point where that becomes the culture, where people deal with that every day. Yeah. No system of sanitation present to the people. If anyone was living in those circumstances, they would be trained as human beings. In other words, we look at, and I'm not relating them to each other at all, but if you look at a situation like in World War II where Nazis were trained, like, these weren't special human beings. They were regular human beings who were trained to be a specific way. I don't believe that one man has a devilish nature over another people because of his race. I believe that in a society, people are pushed and shoved towards a certain way of being or a way of acting because of their surroundings, because of how they are. You know,
Right.
we indigenous people, we chose collectivism, you know what I mean? Way before Karl Marx, way before socialism and all that, you know what I mean? It's not like we needed, you know, a dead guy from Europe to come to the deep, dark parts of the jungle and explain the complex concept of sharing to us brown people. You know, that's not true.
Hey, Chino, that sounds like a tour with Boxy D along. Conflict and shoving.
I kind of missed that. I think I'm supposed to interject a laugh here, but
Too painful, huh? I was notified by our station program director that Cornell West is on KPFK on Saturdays at 11 a.m. doing a new radio show.
Big shout out.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, at any time, when you're talking to Cornell West, did you think, this is Richard Pryor?
Wow, I'm not even going to dignify He's already signed the clearance form, so I guess I can make a joke at his expense. But what really struck me about him is his humility. For somebody to be that popular and to be that successful and to be so humble and to share his time, it really humbled me. Like he was basically saying, listen, if we don't take the younger people under our wing and explain things to them in a way that's not judgmental, then we're going to have success. You know what happened out here in Los Angeles about maybe 15, 20 years ago? The intersection of hip-hop, hardcore hip-hop from the street that really felt like they were unjustifiably being persecuted came into conflict with the civil rights generation, or what was left of it. And instead of being responsible, instead of being older black people that said, yes, I know you use the word hoe and nigga, whatever it may be, but we want to talk about the history of black civilization going way back. Come to my house and we'll discuss it. You know what I mean? Let's talk about what God really means. If we're all made in the image of God, then you must be made in the image of God too, because God's a creator and you created this music that talks about your pain and suffering. But instead you had people steamrolling over rap CDs. You had people saying that, oh, you're not black, you're a sellout, you're doing all these negative things. Instead of having that conversation, I think that's one of the greatest pieces of knowledge he's ever bestowed on me, to say, listen, you can't judge a younger race. You look at them people, of course they have funny jeans. You wouldn't wear that, but at the same time, you're wearing army fatigues. They don't want to wear it. They don't see that in terms of a conflict. It's more of understanding where each generation is and building positively with them, instead of pushing, judging, hating, saying that you're wrong for our society, when they were addressing issues in the street that the civil rights generation weren't even knowledgeable that even existed.
Well, we're very happy that you came here to share all this knowledge with us, Tech. And sorry we got to go.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good, man.
But and Chino, hey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh man, no doubt. And as usual, congratulations to you guys for maintaining, having such a great platform that could be a catalyst for artists like Immortal Technique and myself to be able to speak about more than just music. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that, and congratulations to you guys.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, it's good to meet the artists and hear their motivation for everything. And everybody, the Immortal Technique, thank you so much again.
I appreciate you guys.
Ocho Hour of Power.
Thank you.
And we're going to go to a very short break. We'll be right. We're going right to Upski on the phone with us on the Pocho Hour Power. Thank you for holding on there, brother.
Yeah, man. What's up? What's up, Pocho Hour Power?
Where'd you go? It sounds like you're sticking your head out the window. Hello.
Yeah, can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, sir. It's William Upski Wimsat, and this is the second time on the Pocho Hour Power, and you have a new book out called. It's a follow-up to Bomb the Suburbs, isn't it? Sort of, in the title. Please don't bomb the suburbs. Tell us about your book now.
Well, it's funny because, I of y'all's work for a long time, and I was remembering, it's such an honor to be on the show because I remember in the late 90s, you guys did the Chicano Secret Service and that whole... what was it, the Million Mexican Run for the Border? And where you pretended to be Pete Wilson's gardeners. Yeah. So it's spirit, we're a generation that grew up in the 80s and 90s talking about fight the power, and trying to, thinking we're building the next revolutionary movement. And, here we are, I'm 38 years old. A lot of us are grown, trying to take care of our aging parents and raise kids. And, so this is a story. It's kind of, it's kind of a joke and it's kind of serious, talking about, well, how do we build a movement as adults, for real?
Right.
Because I don't feel like anyone has really properly told the story of our generation, growing up. And so, those of us who grew up in that generation and the movements that we actually built successfully, because I think a lot of people are kind of disillusioned with, where hip-hop has gone, but a lot of that energy, went into actually building, especially in L.A., a really serious economic justice movement, with the budget and scope and agenda and inner city struggle and, a whole generation of organizations, that came up and built a movement, and that a lot of that history hasn't been told, and, and we're the ones, who put Obama in power, and we're the one, and this generation, especially the younger people, are now the most progressive generation in history, in terms of their voting records. And so the question is, what do we do now as grown-ups? What is this new generation coming up going to do as they come into positions of power? It's like one of my heroes actually from LA is a guy a lot of you guys know named Luis Sanchez, who came up doing organizing in high schools, and now he's running for what is he running for? School board? And he's wearing a suit and tie. And that's what our generation needs to do now, because we grew up yelling and throwing things, and now we have to actually take responsibility. We have to take the steering wheel. We have to be the adults that we didn't necessarily have to look up to ourselves. So that's what Please Don't Bomb. It's like a 11-year-old self in the suburbs to say, okay, it's time to step up the game,
We're talking to Billy Upsky Wimsat, and his book is "Please Don't Bomb the Suburbs." This is Lalo. I jumped into the world of Twitter, right? And and the big thing that's happening right now on Twitter is the Dream Act, and there's all these young Latinos that are organized and undocumented students that are putting themselves out at risk, and it's funny to see there's a division between them that I think you are talking about right now, that I think the great majority is ready to get their noses dirty, they go into Congress. I mean, they make John McCain run from cameras, but they work and they lobby for the DREAM Act, which is happening right now in Congress. And then there's a subset of that group that kind of says, I renounce the DREAM Act now because we want Obama just to wave his hands and make immigration reform happen and no compromise, and that's that, and I think what you're laying out is that, there's an in-between that you have to get down and dirty, put on the suits maybe that you don't want to, or at least be active and confront the political realities of our system. What do you think about that? And he's gone.
I think they bombed his phone.
I think they bombed his suburban. I think we lost Billy. You there?
No, I'm back.
I'm back.
The young people.
Young people to cut off your line on your phone.
The young people who are courageously fighting for the DREAM Act, which is up right now. Like, this is the moment to push on the DREAM Act. Who are risking everything, to go up there, and who are both being militant and coming with love. They went up and actually confronted what's his name, Sheriff Arpaio from Arizona, and they gave him a hug. They said, "Hey, you need to see us as people. We see you as people." And that's the type of spirit that is combining militancy with love, with practical solutions that That's what we need more of. And the young people, the United We Dream, Trail of Dreams, all the young people fighting for the DREAM Act, that we just need to support them any way we can, and, if you look them up, go to their website, call Congress, this is the moment to support folks on the DREAM Act.
Yeah, when I'm on there discussing with the people that don't want to, I don't know. It's not that they don't want to do the work, but they don't see, having to integrate with the political system as a viable thing. I mean, I don't know what other way we're gonna do it, and so. Is it a way of, the way you're saying it, introducing, hugs and love, how can we make political work more appealing to this generation, or do we have to do it all, we have to reinvent the wheel? What can we look to?
No, I mean, I'm glad you brought up the DREAM Act and the United We Dream, folks, because they're doing it. I mean, they are, probably as much as any other group in the United States, they are doing it, and I think they're the model. Instead of trying to get young people involved, we need to follow those young people who are leading. They're leading, and we need to support them as adults. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's not just about one issue, and it's not just about one strategy. There was a situation. There's a group called Presente that I think you heard about. That, when SB 1070 happened in Arizona, Lady Gaga was going there, and, they were trying to get people to ban it. And so there was a gay rights group called Get Equal that reached out to Lady Gaga and worked with some young LGBT, youth who were also undocumented and fighting for the DREAM Act in Arizona. And they went and met with her in a hotel room and gave her notes to talk about SB 1070, and so it's about all of us getting each other's backs. None of us is so pure that we can afford to not work with the political system. Not saying like, oh, well, cars are bad, so I'm never going to drive a car. Well, sometimes you got to drive a car to get somewhere, even though cars, so basically we got to use, our village is being attacked.
Yeah.
So don't tell me we don't need to use every tool, from militant tools to love tools to political tools. We need it all, to humor. We need it all in order to try to turn things around, because, we're in a very critical moment right now. A lot of us are taking a step back, especially after this election.
Yeah.
In California, y'all did pretty good. You stopped that Prop 23, that oil prop.
That's
and
right.
You elected Kamala Harris, just by a couple thousand votes.
Yeah.
That was literally, a couple people in the neighborhood in L.A. are responsible for electing, the first black attorney general, and a very progressive woman, Kamala Harris.
That's right. I think it was me and Jeff actually did. Hey, Billy, we've got to roll. I'm so sorry. We have to go. Where can people check you out at your book, Please Don't Bomb the Suburbs?
Yeah, Please Don't Bomb the Suburbs. You can look me up online, William Upsky Wimsatt. You can just Google it, buy it online, or in a local bookstore, even better. And, it's the story of our generation growing up, and I think y'all will enjoy it. And I look forward to building with y'all in the future.
Hey, you'll be on again. Thanks a lot, Upsky. I appreciate it. And on the line we have Sarah from the Breath of Fire Theater Ensemble. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Sarah.
You better spit it out, Sarah. we got.
Make it quick.
We got about under 2 minutes. So, what's going on?
Well, we're having our annual Milagros fundraiser. It's our 4th annual Milagros fundraiser. It's this Saturday, December 4th, from 1 to 5 p.m. at Bistro 400 in downtown Santa Ana, 4th Street, Santa Ana, California. Website breathoffire.org. You can buy your tickets still now on brown paper tickets for $25, $30 at the door. We've got Aparato playing, Nancy Sanchez. We've got work from Sandy Rodriguez, Guadalupe Rodriguez, Lalo.
Lalo?
Yeah, thank you, Lalo, for the posters. We really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember.
Now you remember. Anyway, it's basically, not only is it a miracle to raise funds for a nonprofit, but witness the miracle of Latina theater in Orange County.
Yeah, that's right.
The fact that we exist, and we're, 7 years young, and still the only Latina theater in Orange County.
7 years already.
Yeah, 7 years. And in our season, we're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Mexican OC, telling the undertold and untold stories.
Oh,
So,
the Mexico Sea. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, see it.
Once again, give us the details real fast in 3 words or less.
We're website is breathoffire.org. We're Breath of Fire Latina Theater Ensemble. Our fundraiser's tomorrow, Saturday, December 4th, 1 to 5 p.m. You can buy your tickets at brownpapertickets.com. Type in Milagros Fundraiser. And pre-sale $25, at the door $30.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. And I want to thank everybody for being on the Butcher Hour Power. My co-host, guys, that was an awesome show, was it not?
Jeff Keller wants to say, Lalo, thank you, man. That was deep. Patrick, you're always the man.
You never disappoint, Patrick.
Thank you. Did it all by myself. Yeah, I just want to say real quick, happy birthday, Dad. 74 today.
All right. Happy
birthday. It's my sister's birthday.
Boxy D, I want to hear some music from you. It's your sister's birthday, Jeffrey?
Sandy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Sandy. I want to encourage everybody to go see go to crunchyfest.com. I want to thank Chino XL and Immortal Technique. Also, Billy Upsky Wimsat, Please Don't Bomb the Suburbs. And please don't bomb the OC Breath of Fire Theater Show tomorrow. Thank you, Sarah Guerrero. I want to thank my engineer, D'Angelo Jones, producer Giovanni Solis. I want to thank Alan Minsky. I want to really thank DJ Boxy D for getting Immortal Technique. And I want to wish Julian Assange some luck with the WikiLeaks. Good luck, brother.
And I want to thank D'Angelo for being fast with that finger.
Butcher Hour Power is out.
Oh, next week, Felipe Esparza in studio. Last comic standing.
Hilarious. Felipe Esparza, stay tuned next for
Susie Weissman in the doorway.
The surface.
Pocho.
December 9th marks the 29th year of imprisonment for Mumia Abu-Jamal, award-winning journalist, author, and member of the Black Panther Party. Currently on death row for a murder he maintains he did not commit, his supporters await the decision of a federal court which reviewed his case on November 9th. Justice on Trial, the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal from Big Noise Films, will make its Los Angeles premiere on December 5th at 7 p.m. at the Downtown Independent Theater, 251 South Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. The film presents both the arguments of the prosecution as well as Mumia supporters. That's Sunday, December 5th, 7 p.m. at the Downtown